run, do not walk to your computer or your phone and click add to cart and purchase or get on that wait list. When I met LA, I knew I wanted to work with her to develop my signature speech. And because I have a performance background, I knew that speaking would be the best way for me to naturally merge my worlds of college prep expertise and performance expertise. And I am loving what I'm learning so far. There are so many things that, even though I have stage experience, I wouldn't know would make a memorable speech that really gets to the core of what people want and need to hear in order to make a buying decision. I have already given, 3 talks since I started the class. I'm only halfway through and I have 2 or 3 more to go. And I am so indebted to LA for helping me feel confident and really just excited about what my talk is going to become in the next few weeks.
You don't need to be a professional speaker to deliver a message that changes lives or grows your business. In fact, the most successful talks, the ones that stick around people for years, aren't over the top, and they're not packed with a bunch of language that your audience doesn't even understand. They're simple, clear, and personal. Think about this. Simon Sinek built an entire career off of a single idea. Start with why. Brene Brown captivated the world by talking about vulnerability, something we all feel but rarely talk about. What they did was magical and simple. And here's the good news. If you're a coach, a consultant, or a small business owner, you are already sitting on the kind of ideas and stories that can do the same for your audience. In today's episode, I am going to be talking about how to turn those ideas into what I call an in-demand signature speech, a talk that not only inspires, but positions you as the go-to expert in your field. Sound like something you're interested in? Well, let's dive in. And if you're new here, I am Laurie-Ann Murabito, your host of Be in Demand. This is the podcast for coaches, consultants, and service providers that is all about how to leverage public speaking events to get positioned as the expert. So today I want to share with you 3 simple tips. And as a matter of fact, the first one is about simplicity, because simplicity is your superpower. It is a superpower for having the sort of speech that people remember, people talk about long after you've stepped off the stage. And so the good news is speeches aren't about complexity. They're about clarity. So back to Simon Sinek, this whole start with why, 3 little words. He wrote a book, has a career on this. And it's all about how we think differently about leadership, how we think differently about the companies that we are building. It's like people don't care what you do. They care about why are you doing it? Because that, again, is how we make people feel. When they hear why we do what we do, that's connection. For me, I'm here to give you a voice. I'm here to share with you that your story matters, your solutions matter, and you don't have to wait years to be invited to speak. You get to go build your stage. Remember, I've said that speaking needs to be redefined and stages needs to be redefined. So you get to choose where is your stage and then be invited onto other people's stages so that you get OPA. You get to leverage other people's audiences. And that's how your followers and your audience grows when you are serving other people's audiences. Brene Brown. I remember exactly who shared her TED Talk with me. I remember exactly where I was when I watched this TED Talk, and it just blew my mind. Something so simple, vulnerability and shame. And this was something that she had been researching, but she told these beautiful stories and she added in a little bit of humor. And look at this, here I am, years later, I am talking about that very TED Talk, her speech that I would say really catapulted her career in the public. She'd been a researcher for years, but did you know her name until that TED Talk went viral? So the good news is you don't have to do a TED Talk and doesn't have to go viral. You can still have that kind of an impact on your audience. You don't have to have been doing research for years on end. You don't even have to have years of speaking experience to deliver a speech that lands. When you come from your passion, your purpose, and simplicity, you really can leave a lasting impression. Here's what you do want to do. You do need to strip away all the fluff and just focus on a core message. And this is something that I talk about with my private clients and inside In Demand Signature Speech. I get you to set 2 goals. What's your goal as a speaker and what's your goal for the audience? They should be 2 different things. Yes, you want the audience to learn something that's going to move them, but why are you speaking? So that's why I firmly believe that there are 2 different goals. One for you personally as a speaker and one for the audience. Because from those 2 goals, we're going to reverse engineer your speech from the end backwards so that we accomplish that goal. So I want you to think about what is the one gift you would like to get out of speaking. Just think about that for a moment. And then I want you to think about what is the one gift that you want your audience to receive when you are done speaking. So this is step number 1, simplicity, keeping it simple because simplicity is your superpower. Step 2 is relatability. Being relatable creates connection with your audience. So in other words, you don't have to have done something so magnificent like climbing Mount Everest. And I know that I use that example a lot. And I'll let you in on a little secret within the National Speakers Association, because there are some speakers who have climbed Mount Everest who have been victims of hijacked planes, have had like these major aneurysms and come out of a coma after a few months. And like in the speaking world, people who don't have stories like that were like, oh, for crying out loud, if I only had a story like that. But you can only imagine what that must have been like for that person. So you don't have to have done something that is so rare. And even those speakers have to make their experience relatable to the audience. We want to connect with our audience, so we need to be relatable. Back to Brene Brown, she admits that she was a recovering perfectionist. I have to say this also, having come from the world of leadership speaking, I felt like I had to be perfect. I had to wear the suit and the heels to be on stage to have that corporate feel, but it didn't feel like me. And because I didn't feel like myself, there was a disconnect between my speech and really connecting with the audience. So please learn from my mistakes. I no longer wear a suit. I just don't like the same top and bottom, as a matter of fact. But I'll wear a monochromatic dress. And I want to tell the stories that only I can tell. And here's another hint about speaking. You don't have to be the expert who knows everything about your field of expertise. No, you don't. So when I spoke about leadership, Harvard Business Review is constantly publicizing. I mean, they have a whole magazine on research. There's different types of leadership. There's different how-tos around leadership and corporate engagement. I couldn't know everything, but I was there to inspire people. And I also use speaking as a way that I got executive coaching clients. So again, when you're the speaker in the front of the room, you are the expert, but you don't have to know everything. Here's another tip that I share with people. If somebody asks you a question that you can't answer, you just say, hey, would you do me a favor? Would you come up to me afterwards? Or if you're doing this virtually, you say, send me a private message, send me your email address. And if there's anybody else who would like an answer to this question, I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but I will get you that answer. And just follow through. Get that information to them. And people will respect you for being honest that you don't know the answer, but you're going to get it for them. But you are going to share that information with them just at a later date. It's not a big deal. As a matter of fact, I would say that the less perfect you are and you let your audience see that, they're going to appreciate that. If you've been listening to my podcast for any time, I tell a story about once where I was answering some questions. This was during a breakout session after the keynote. and I was answering questions from the audience and just kind of completely forgot what we were talking about and looked down at somebody and said, "What was I talking about before?" And the audience laughed because they've all been there, done that, walked into a room, forgot why they were there. I mean, it's funny. And if anything, the audience wasn't laughing at me. They were just laughing with me. And it just, like those couple of seconds and people laughing, I got right back on track. So it's fun to be real with your audience. So what is one story or a moment in your life that you didn't have it all together, but still you learned something really valuable? What's that story? I want you to think about that. And what's the story that you want to be known for? What's the thing that you want to be known for when you're on stage? Because it is okay to reuse the same story again and again and again. You get really good at telling that story again and again and again, and people will walk up to you, because this is what happens to me. When I was speaking on leadership and corporate engagement, people would come up to me saying, "Are you going to tell that jackknife story?" And I feel like, as a matter of fact, I am. So now they're anticipating it, even though they've already heard this story about a jackknife. They want to hear it again. People love that. So don't think that you have to keep coming up with new stories every single time you are speaking to an audience. That is tip number 2. Being relatable also helps you connect with your audience. Okay, tip number 3. Your audience is waiting. That's right. Just picture those people that you are here to be serving. Your future audience, they're already out there. And those people are waiting for the right coach, consultant, or an expert to guide them. But if you stay silent, they're never going to find you. Think about the last coach that you hired. Why did you hire that particular coach? How many other coaches before that had you run across? I mean, I'm thinking of business coaches, online business coaches, and how many are out there? But I think back to, why did I hire the couple that I have worked with? Why did I hire the one that I'm currently working with? Because there's something about that person. I was waiting to work with them, and I wouldn't have been able to work with them if they had kept hidden and silent. So what if you thought about your signature speech not as a task, but as a gift, a way to serve your audience and inspire them and build trust? Suddenly, that kind of turns the tables, doesn't it? Instead of like, "Hey, I'm afraid, I'm not sure what people will think," all of a sudden, instead of focusing the attention on yourself, I'm turning the tables. And now you are coming from a place of serving your audience. That those people who are out there waiting to hear your story, your solutions, they need to hear that. They need to hear your story, your solution, in order for them to take that next step. So you're the bottleneck, essentially. So getting out there to share your story, because nobody can tell your story the way that you tell your story and through your eyes. Everybody's story is so unique. It's also a gift for you to be speaking to every audience. Whenever I am crafting a new signature speech, I always think about, what is the gift I want to give this audience? What do I want them to walk away with? As a matter of fact, I do that with my coaching calls with my private clients. What's the gift that they are going to walk away with today? I want to make sure that they always walk away with some sort of a gold nugget. Even the speaker breakthrough sessions that I do, and these are not clients of mine. If you've been listening to the odd number episodes where there's a speaker breakthrough, these people are not my coaching clients, but I am coaching them as if they were paying me thousands of dollars, because it's a gift. And I want them to get their story out there. I want them to overcome whatever barrier is holding them back from raising their hand to speaking. And I want you to be doing the exact same thing. And here's the funny thing with a signature speech, it is the speech that you can use again and again and again. You do not have to keep rewriting a speech every time you get booked. That's a lot of work. And it's also a lot of time to practice so that the audience doesn't feel like this is the first time you gave that speech. No, I want you to get up there and feel confident in the speech that you have crafted. I want you to feel confident that you know that it's going to convert your audience. I want you to feel proud while you're up there serving that audience. And that comes with preparation and having a process for putting a speech together that is also subconsciously tapping into what the audience is going through. And so what I mean by that, that's what in-demand signature speech is all about. I walk you through the steps. There's 7 different steps that are in a speech. Yes, it's more than a beginning, middle, and an end. The beginning part is you have to grab people's attention. You have to give them a reason why they should listen to you, especially if they don't know you. Because what happens is your audience starts to sit back. And so that's why that authority section's in there, because what's running through their mind is, well, why should I listen to you? Why are you the person who is teaching this? Why? And by you sharing an authority section, and I make it very conversational, and I teach all this inside in-demand signature speech, it makes your audience like perk back up and they pull back in and they start to lean in more. And that's when you start giving your value section. And you have 3 simple ideas. We don't want to overcomplicate. You can always come back and speak again to that same audience. And if you haven't heard about in-demand signature speech, this is a group program that is very intimate. You're not going to get lost in an ocean of students. No, you won't. Because I keep this program very intimate because I want my eyes on your presentation. And we are going to be starting February 17th. So right now, that's about 3 weeks from today, from when this podcast goes live, if you're listening to this on the day that it goes live, which is January 27th. So there's 3 weeks. So anybody, and 3 seats have already been sold. Anybody who buys now, you're actually going to get instant access to the program. So you can get a jump start on crafting your speech. There are video modules in there, and it walks you through my unique process for putting a speech together. Maybe this is the year that you're like, I am going to start speaking, and you don't know how to put a speech together. You may not even know how to get booked to speak. Don't worry. All of that is inside in-demand signature speech. One of the bonuses is a masterclass on getting booked. Yep. Don't worry. You will have everything that you need to get booked. And there's so much more. You can go to speakandstandout.com/SF to learn more about the program. And if you are still having some questions, I would say make sure you book a call with me. There is a link on the page, a couple of links so that you can book a call with me to find out if in-demand signature speech is the right thing for you. I've already got a couple of calls that are on my calendar this week, and I would love to talk to you to make sure that this is the right thing for you to be stepping into in 2025. So just to summarize this particular episode, there were 3 tips. One was about simplicity. Simplicity is going to be your superpower. Number 2 is relatability. That's what helps you connect with your audience. Learning how to tell a story that you can use metaphors and analogies and sports stories, but it's the lesson that you share with the audience. Because whenever we tell a story, we tell the lesson that we want the audience to walk away with. We never assume that the audience knows what lesson or tip we are trying to share with them. So relatability is tip number 2. And then tip number 3 is your audience is waiting. There are people that are waiting to find you. And by you stepping into being the speaker, they are going to find you so much easier. And here's one of those beautiful things about in-demand signature speech is that these little segments you can use in other places. I've had clients who said, I took in-demand signature speech and I was able to use like the authority section when I was interviewed on a podcast. When they asked me a particular question, I used one of those value points that I was sharing in the in my speech. I shared it on the podcast. What I want you to understand is there are so many places that you can be using your in-demand signature speech, whether it's from beginning to end or just parts of it. So think about how you can be serving more people. Because here's the thing, and you've probably heard me say this, speaking is the fastest way to grow your business and establish yourself as the go-to expert in your field. Your audience is waiting for you. They just need you to raise your hand and say yes and step up to being the speaker. And I also want to point out something that I just shared with you. Speaking is the fastest way to grow your business. That's my catchphrase. That's my repeatable phrase that I say over and over and over again. And that is something that you are going to craft inside the in-demand signature speech program. So if you're ready to turn your message into something so powerful, a talk that changes lives and grows your business, well, why don't you go check out speakandstandout.com/SS, and that link will be down below in the show notes as well. So till next week, I want you to go be in demand. Hey there, are you ready to take the stage and your business to the next level? Because the doors to my in-demand signature speech program are officially open. Join now and you will get instant access to the program so you can start crafting your 3C's presentation, a talk that is captivating, compelling, and most importantly, converting. Imagine an audience that's raving about you, remembering you, and referring you long after you step off the stage. That is the power of a signature speech. And this program will help you create one that you are proud to deliver. If you want a sneak peek at what's inside the program, check out the show notes for a past episode where I pulled back the curtain and gave you a behind-the-scenes look. Your audience is waiting. Let's make your story the one that they will never forget. I'll see you inside.